Alright, hi everyone, and welcome to my first speed build here on YouTube. I've been making videos of The Sims here for quite a few years, but I've never done one of these before, so I hope it turns out okay. I'm not exactly sure if the video is too fast. I did have to speed it up quite a bit though, because originally this took me about 3 hours to complete. We are in the world Windenburg, which comes with The Sims 4 Get Together expansion pack, and along with the expansion pack, there's 200 plus new objects in buy and build mode, and they're mainly to be able to create Tudor-style houses, which is what we're going to be doing in this particular speed build. This is a very, very large house, much bigger than I anticipated, to be honest, but I suppose it makes sense because in the region that I'm building right now in Windenburg, it's the very affluent part of town. There's so many big mansions and all of that good stuff surrounding this particular lot, so I felt it made sense and it kind of suited the atmosphere. Now, I did want to make sure that the build was mainly symmetrical. I do add some stuff to the left and the right of the building just to give it its individuality, and that way it's not 100% symmetrical because asymmetry is always good and makes things a little bit more interesting to look at. But when I went to look at the other houses in Windenburg, I've noticed that Tudor houses seem to be very symmetrical and they always incorporate wood paneling, and also you can toss in brick as well. Because this house is so big, I made the first floor have brick and then the second and third floor has the wood paneling. Granted, the third floor isn't actually real, it's mainly there just for decoration and to give the house a bigger sense of scale. Right there on the roof, though, there's a new decorative object that you can put on it, which is a decorative dormer window. You could do this before in the past with The Sims 4 with the wall tool, but now if you just want to toss them up there really easily without having to build them, that's a very convenient object to have. I put it away for now just because I didn't feel I wanted to put it on this particular roof, but I saved it for later just in case I wanted to toss it out or toss it on there at some other point in time. There's a bunch of new windows that have been added with the expansion pack, and they're all perfect for these Tudor style houses for sure. There's a lot of really pretty stained glass windows too. You'll see on the top there in the center, I had a couple of the stained glass windows, but they just didn't suit this build, and I felt it was a little odd to have stained windows on a residential lot. I feel like that would make more sense on a commercial lot, so that's why I didn't go with that. And there's also this pretty new rocky fence. Windenburg surprised me a lot. When I first saw this world, I wasn't too excited for it, but now that I've had time to explore it and look at it, it's super beautiful and it definitely left me inspired, which is why I decided to do a Tudor-styled house, just looking at everything in Windenburg. Typically, I tend to go for the more contemporary builds. It's just what I fancy. But I mean, if I was ever given the opportunity to own a house like this, are you kidding me? I would take that in a heartbeat. I am quite happy with the way this came out. It's sort of getting its shape right now, and I'm doing a little bit of the landscaping. I wanted it to have a very grand entrance because I had so much space. I originally regretted picking this lot because I didn't realize how big it actually was. But once I started making the courtyard, and there's no backyard technically, but the front yard is super big and makes up for the fact that you don't have anything in the back. But when you place it in this world, you have this entire beautiful scenery surrounding your lot anyways. Originally I was going to add some fountains there, but I felt that looked a little bit odd, so I took that off. I do that a lot, and I think most of us do that. When we're building, there's a lot of ideas that just come into your head and you can't fully visualize them, so you just try them out. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, well, you can just press Ctrl Z and try something else instead. There's so many new things to add onto the walls, which I really like. So you can see I've put all those vines there, and it just makes it look so much more organic and lived in. And I love that they've added this in. I think it looks so cute that way and definitely provides a much more picturesque look to your entire lot, because once you add in those vines and the little flower pots outside of the window, it just looks so much more inviting. I think if that wasn't there, it would look a lot more depressing and would not be nearly as inviting. finally, I think this is where I start to expand upon the left and the right of the build, because as I was looking at it, it looked a little too symmetrical, a little bit too perfect looking and manufactured. So I wanted to be sure to add some more wings to the right and to the left. That way it had a more interesting shape. And originally my plan was to have the right side of the house almost be like its own little tiny guest house with its own kitchen and bathroom and what have you. But I ended up changing that idea entirely, and I ended up making it 2 bedrooms down there instead. And here I am changing the roofs, and I feel I finally have roofs down. A, it's been a very long journey because roofs initially were my biggest nightmare, but just by practicing and basically building houses pretty often, I try to use the roof tool as much as I can. And I think that's a big reason why I like contemporary builds, is because you can get by with a flat roof so much more. But with the Tudor houses, you really need those gabled roofs to make it look right. Oh, at this point, so the fences right there, I was trying to find a fence that could match the flower pots outside of the window, but instead I didn't find one that matched, but I found this. And when I saw this, was disappointed there wasn't a gate to match with it initially, but then I looked at it and it reminded me of a gazebo. So I built my own, and at first I wasn't sure if it was gonna work, but it ended up looking pretty cool. So I put in a bunch of different roofs, including diagonal ones, and this foundation on top. And with Get Together, there's also these new columns made out of wood. So I put those in to connect it, because the fence isn't as tall as a wall. But once you put in the fence posts, it looks so legit. Look at it. It looks like an actual gazebo. So I'm pretty glad with the way that came out. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, by the way. It's such a funny sounding name for an object, and unintentionally I made it the perfect size to put a hot tub in. So I do put a hot tub in there. However, you need, oh, what pack is it? I always forget the name of the packs. Was it the Perfect Patio game pack, I think? I don't know if it's a game pack or a stuff pack. I can never actually memorize all that stuff. But if you don't have the pack that includes the hot tubs, then you could just put some seating there, I suppose, and it would look cute. I think I put a grill next to it, and if I didn't, I should have, because then it could also be a cute little area to just dine out. Initially, I was gonna put it in the front, but I forgot almost that there is the new natural pool tool. So I wanted to be sure to take advantage of that. Those weird little objects right there, what those do, those are the emitters. So they emit fog and bubble particles up from the pool. It looks really pretty in live mode towards the end of the video once I start showing off all of the other rooms when they're complete. I do show off what the pool looks like once it's all animated. There's also a bunch of algae and lily pads that you can add to decorate the pool water on top. I didn't want to get too crazy with it though. And this is where I discover the fountains that have been added and Get Together. And I love that fountain right there. That super big one. I want to do a Spanish inspired build and use that in that build because I feel it would suit it so perfectly. I wanted to use it, but it was just way too big for this lot. That other fountain though is equally as nice. It's just not as grand, and that's okay because sometimes you don't need super extraordinary things. This is when I started to realize what I was getting myself into, and I was looking inside the house for a little bit, just trying to get an idea of what I wanted to do for the floor plan. So I didn't want the Sims to have to exit through the front to get to the front yard. So I decided to add in this little wing over here to the left of the build. That way they could exit out there easier to access the hot tub and the pool and all the other fun objects outside. I was going to put another deck out here too, but I felt it would look way too clunky. So I went with something a lot smaller there. And there's a bunch of new textures that you can use for the ground as well. I really like the stone textures. We had one in the base game, but now we have 2 more options. Terrain painting is still something that I'm getting used to and could definitely improve on. I just find it a little bit difficult to get a good handle on it. And I typically put the opacity down on the terrain paint so that I could get more control. But I see other people use it and they do these really beautiful strokes and everything looks so nice and clean. And with me, I feel it looks just like a huge mess. But I guess in this case, that's okay because these are all just a bunch of stones. So they're supposed to be kind of messy anyway. So I feel it works. But when it comes to making a path that's very what's the word, planned out, geometrical, I suppose, and has hard edges, that's when I find it most difficult to use the terrain paint tool. And before in The Sims 3, you could do a really neat trick where you would put floor tiles surrounding the area you wanted to paint, and then you would paint it, and everything that was under the tiles would not get painted. So you could kind of use it almost as if it was tape and you're painting over it, and then you could delete the floor tiles as if you were removing tape, and then it would look perfect. But in The Sims 4, when you use the terrain paint and there's floor tiles, it still goes underneath it. So I can't use that trick anymore, unfortunately. And this is where I start just placing a bunch of random things like rocks and shrubs, since I feel that makes it look a lot more natural. Landscaping, just in general, I think is the thing I really need to improve on. I think I have a bad habit, not just with landscaping, but just in build mode in general. I often use the same things over and over and over. I always gravitate towards the same floor textures, wall textures, the same plants and rocks, which is why I wanted to do a Tudor-styled house. That way I could use the new objects, things I've never used in the past. And I also tried to use new textures that I normally don't, but I kind of failed. I ended up reverting to a lot of the typical wood textures and tiles that I normally do. Oh, so here I'm finally doing the entranceway. This is another kind of weird glitch with The Sims 4. I love The Sims 4. They've improved upon build mode so much more, but there's still a few glitches, and a lot of you know this. Whenever you put fences and you hollow out the first floor, you can see on the sides of the wall on the second floor, there's this weird beam, and that beam is coming from the roof because when you delete the floor that shows off the first floor, it glitches out and the roof goes in because it thinks that it's not a room technically. It's kind of hard to explain. It's been a known glitch for a while though, and they haven't fixed it yet, and I hope they can eventually fix it because it's such an annoying thing to deal with. I think right there is when I finally started to see. So see, when I closed the wall there, for a moment I noticed that they went away. See? But the moment you get rid of the wall, then it starts to show up. So I had to work around that a little bit. I wanted to be sure to still have this entrance because I felt it made it look so much more grand. I end up closing the wall to the right, and then I put a bunch of counters and stuff to the left and a bar. That way I hide all the gross roof bar thing that was there because it just looked kind of bad. But with this brown wood paneling wallpaper, it kind of hid it pretty well. So I think I was clever enough and hit it as best as I could. But if you're playing and you remove the bar or whatever and you see that weird stuff, that's why it's doing it. Hopefully one of these days we'll get a fix for that because that would be super fantastic. Now here, just trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with the floor plan. I was struggling with this for quite some time. I would attempt it, get frustrated, and then I would look at the outside of the house and do something else and then come back to it. I tend to do that a lot. If I just get really angry with something and I don't know how to approach it, I just leave and I come back later and hope I can figure out a solution then. With the front of the house, I figured it would make most sense to have the kitchen near the entrance and also the dining room. So they're right on the opposite ends of each other. And with the kitchen, I wanted to add in that stove there because I felt it suited the rest of the build. There's also a bunch of random objects in there because I enabled, what was it, show hidden objects, and I could never figure out how to turn that off other than restarting your game, and I was too lazy to do that. So if you ever see a bunch of random collectibles, it's because I used that particular cheat. And these are all a bunch of brand new objects from Get Together. I start busting out a lot of things just because I was seeing a lot of them for the first time. And I kind of hop between rooms a lot. So I do apologize for that. Not right now, but once I start have multiple rooms going on, and the reason for that is because I'll see something and then I'll be like, oh, that would be great in the kitchen, or that would be perfect in the kids' room. That would be amazing in the music room. And then I have to go do it before I forget. Otherwise, I would not remember. So I would often switch between rooms all the time. So I do apologize for that if it bugs you that I don't finish the kitchen 100% entirely, because now I moved on to the dining room when the kitchen isn't nearly complete at all. And man, this dining room was a pain in the butt. I kept redoing it over and over. I already edited some of it out. Prior to this, I was messing with a whole bunch of other tables and chairs until I finally selected one. And if you like the way the dining room looks right now, that's great, but I believe it's going to get changed pretty dramatically over time. Now, with the wall decorations, I did have a bit of a troubling time with that, mainly because a lot of the new wall decorations are massive, and I found them kind of hard to place within my short wall heights. That painting above the fireplace, though, is awesome. It's an antique photo. It's not a painting. And there's 4 different options to pick from. So I scattered those throughout the entirety of the house, and I use them quite often just because I think they're really cute. And there's a lot of adorable objects outside for your yard. There's little bird houses that is in a Tudor style right there that I just placed. Speak of the devil. Oh yeah, next to the birdhouse, if you saw, there is the bush with all those cute little heart flowers. That is a bush that your sim can go into. They can use it to woohoo, they can sleep in it, and they can also fertilize it with their body. So, very convenient object for sure. I love that painting so much of that lady. I don't know who it's of or anything. I removed it right now, but don't worry. Eventually, I go back and toss it back into that dining room. At first, I thought it was too big, but it's just such a great picture. And I toss it in back into the dining room because I needed to have it so bad. And with the majority of the house, I wanted it to still suit the exterior of the house. So I wanted it to look very traditional, and I wanted it to have all this wood paneling. This is some new tiles that were added into the expansion pack. I was thinking of adding it into the bathroom because you can put this beautiful centerpiece into it, but I wasn't really digging it too much, and I think that might be intended to be used in the pool, but I think you could use it in a bathroom. I think it'd look kind of cool. Or even if you put it in a courtyard and you put those little decorations in a very strategic manner, it would look so cool. I may have to do that sometime. But I changed the bathroom quite a bit, and I was pretty okay, so I kept trying to add stuff that wasn't brown. But the thing is, the wooden frames are all brown, so I always felt so compelled to make everything have brown wood. Again, with The Sims 4, I love it, but in The Sims 3, we had the whole creative style option, which is cool. But what I use that a lot in with build mode is with the windows, you can make the outside have a brown paneling, and then on the inside, you can make it black or white or whatever you want. So, for instance, in that bathroom, I wanted to go with the black and white kind of color scheme, but I felt that the brown just threw it off all the time, so I decided against it. And with The Sims 4, it is a bit of a challenge sometimes because you have to work based off the color swatches that are provided with you, and you don't get to pick what color you want. And I normally don't use custom content. If I do, it's typically stuff for Create a Sim. I haven't downloaded any wall textures or floor textures or anything like that, just because when I upload something to the gallery, I want people to be able to download it and have it look the way it is once it's uploaded. And also, I think when you upload to the gallery, if you have any mods, it automatically gets that mods checklist. And then people have to look specifically under the advanced option to find stuff with mods. And it gives you way less visibility, which is kind of frustrating. So I'm not against mods or anything. I think the modding community is great. And there are a lot of things that are very tempting to download, but for the most part, I avoid it. Except Lumia Lover. Oh my god, Lumia Lover Sims, my favorite Sims content creator. He makes a bunch of awesome stuff for male Sims. If you're ever looking for custom content for men, Lumia Lover Sims is the best place to go for that. And he has a Tumblr, and I love all the content that he puts out there. But here I am just building the living room, tossing in a bunch of antique looking furniture to kind of coincide with the outside. But don't worry, I do add in a room for a child and a teen very soon. And for their rooms, I wanted it to look much more modern. And I kind of go against the rest of the interior style in the house because I felt it was looking a little too classy. I felt like, okay, I would be I wanted it to feel cozy at the same time. So I didn't want it to look too proper. Those new chairs that I had over there by the television, those are brand new from the expansion pack. And don't get me wrong, I love that type of furniture, but I don't think I would ever own any of that in my house ever. And I have a lot of family members, and their house is decorated in this kind of fashion where they have those very traditional style couches and everything, but I can't stand them in real life. I hate them. I hate sitting on them. They're not comfortable. They look pretty, they're weird, and a lot of the time people still have like plastic wrapping over it, and then you like squeak when you're sitting on it, and just no, not for me. So I will definitely buy probably like leather couches. Love leather couches. They're so comfortable, especially like in the summertime when your house is so nice and cool and you just lay on it. Oh, it's like the best. So initially I was going to make it a room for a newborn, but I wanted to make it a room for a child instead. That way I can squeeze in a bed and make sure that it could accompany a bed within this room. Sadly, no new beds. And again, when I mention these things, when I talk about things that we didn't get, it's not that I'm ungrateful or anything like that. Because sometimes people say, like, you complain too much, blah, 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 blah. I'm totally grateful for everything that Get Together brings. There's a massive amount of content in it. And obviously, they can't add everything in because of time and resources. But if any sim gurus are listening to this by any chance, or anyone that has some type of decisions in The Sims 4 that they can make, more beds. And this is such a common request from people in the simming community. We've used practically all of these beds already, and we just need more styles. I don't like the bed sheets that are provided with them anymore. I'm so sick of almost all of them just because I've used them so much already. So I hope that in future stuff packs, game packs, that we get more beds because we certainly need it. Now here with the teen. Okay, this teen room is great. It utilizes so much stuff from Get Together because Get Together has a bunch of different styles. It has the very modern glass objects. Then we have the very traditional Tudor style objects. And then we have these really cool urban styled objects. So we have a lot of cool posters, all these banners. And the banners are for clubs, by the way. See the ones with the skulls? So when you make a club, you get to pick a insignia. And that one is an option with skulls. And there's a whole bunch of other ones. There's one of like diamonds and one of a flame, one of a rainbow. So I just went with a sort of rebellious themed room for the teenager just because, it's typical, I admit. And I also did use a carpet from the spooky stuff pack just because it had a skeleton on it. But don't worry, a majority of this build uses content from the base game and from Get Together. I tried my best to stay within those two, but every now and then I would toss in a few objects from previous packs just because I felt it would suit a particular bedroom better. And here you can see there's so many new wood paneling textures for the outside for the Tudor-styled houses. I didn't know how to go about it. I was looking at the other houses in the neighborhood and it didn't really seem like there was any rhyme or reason to it. So I just went with whatever looked aesthetically pleasing. So I do apologize if you're supposed to put the wood paneling in a particular way because I just placed it randomly. Now at this point, I am building the little entranceway for the master bedroom, a guest room, and also a music room. This house could easily fit 6 Sims. And I guess if you removed the music room and if you put 2 twin beds in there, then you could make it fit 8 Sims, though it would maybe be a little bit cramped there. But now that I think about it, 8 Sims would be just fine because eventually with the dining room, instead of using a long dining table, I use 2 shorter ones and place them really close together. So there's more than 8 chairs for the dining room, I want to say. And the front yard is massive. The living room is super big. So I think this could be easily suitable for 8 Sims if you dare challenge to control 8 Sims at the same time. And if you do that efficiently, good on you. It's very hard in a Let's Play to control 8 Sims because you need to keep it entertaining. I have played with 8 Sims in the past, and it can be a fun challenge, but if it's something that you're taking seriously and you want to advance everyone in their career, it requires a lot of pausing for me because there's so much to keep up with. So I always have to pause and plan out a bunch of actions and then hit unpause. But that kind of playstyle doesn't work great for a Let's Play because then you're just strategizing a whole bunch and not much is going on. So you almost always in the Let's Play want to keep it on speed 1. That way you can see what everyone's doing and there's always something happening. So this master bedroom very much falls into the same category as in the dining room, where it gets completely overhauled a bunch. And I ran into a similar issue with the bathroom downstairs where I wanted to go with a much darker color scheme. Now that I look at it, the brown window is not that big of an issue, but it's just something, it's what I always used to do in The Sims 3. If this was The Sims 3, I'd go into creative style. I would go to that window and I would make the inside of it black and then the outside would be dark brown because that's how my house has always been. When we would paint a room, whether it was white or purple or whatever, we would paint the window frames to match the rest of the wall. So I just miss being able to do that. It was such a nice and convenient little thing, but now I just have to let it go and embrace it and try to just work around it. Finally, I start to add in some outdoor lighting because obviously when you're playing this, you want to be sure that you can see everything. I made it very important to move in a family soon. That way I could test out a bunch of things. I wasn't able to break it, so I'm pretty sure your Sims should be able to access everything. They should be able to use the pool, the hot tub, the closet. Every single object should have no obstacles in front of them to prevent them from using it. Hopefully, that's the plan. So I uploaded a hospital from The Sims 4 Get to Work, and as I was playing it in my Let's Play, I ran into a whole bunch of issues, so I wanted to avoid that this time. I had a lot of fun making the family. I was thinking about a family while I was making this house with the child's room and teen's room, so I made 2 brothers, and I kind of imagined that maybe the teen son would try to break out a bunch, but then the younger brother would always tattle on him, and maybe the parents would always reward the younger son when they would be notified when the teen was trying to break out. So the teen really hates his younger brother because he never lets him sneak out, because they could easily sneak out at any time since they're on the first floor and they're kind of in their own individual part of the house, while the parents are all the way upstairs in the master bedroom. So it's kind of fun to envision little things like that when building a house. And another thing is, like, I envision the parents, or maybe just one of the parents, being a musician, which is why I have a lot of music notes and the music room everywhere. It just kind of helps decorate some of the rooms, and you gotta just kind of role play and kind of think about what kind of family would live in here and what they would use, and it helps you decorate their houses a lot more, I would say. At this point, just using the dirt texture to add it under some of the objects outside, just so that it looks a little bit more realistic. A little subtle dirt goes a long way, it really does. Oh, those planters in front, by the way, with, I want to say they're white daisies, I think. You could delete those, and then you can do actual gardening if you like to do that with your household. I typically don't do it in my Let's Plays because gardening is a very time-consuming thing. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just I feel maybe people don't find it all that interesting to watch Sims plant stuff in a Let's Play. I should get into gardening. I hear that gardening has like a lot of great health benefits. I think it helps a lot with depression and apparently self-esteem. Oh, so yeah, here's the family I was talking about that I made. in the middle of while building this house. Also, I did bring Sims in because you can't change the lighting color in buy and build mode, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You can just bring in a sim and then change it that way. But with the Sims 3, if you do testing cheats enabled true or whatever the cheat was, and you shift clicked on the light, you could turn it on, off, you could change the color of it. It was very convenient, but in the Sims 4, you can't do that. So I wanted to make sure that all the lights are the same color temperature. Because if you're ever building something and you look at it and you feel like the colors of the furniture is mismatched, even though you have the same swatches, and then you're psyching yourself out. You're like, did I really pick the same color? Or am I just imagining it? And the reason it throws us off so much is I don't know why they did this, but when you go to buy lights, different lights project different colored temperatures. Which, okay, yeah, that's realistic, but in The Sims 4, it can be so dramatic, and the whites in particular, all the white furniture looks very mismatched when you don't have the same color temperature for lighting. So, just in case you never knew. At this point, I moved the entire house front, you might have noticed, and then I extruded some of the walls in the back just so that it gave it a more interesting shape. Sometimes people will say, all I do are make box houses and everything. I'm like, well, then just, make another little tiny box to the right or to the left. And then there you go. You no longer have a boxed house. And then you have a house with more interesting shape. So it's pretty easy. And it makes it look super duper cool. This is the massive living room. At first, I was kind of annoyed by how big it was. But then I thought about it. And if this family, maybe they're very huge socialites and they love to have a whole bunch of people over all the time and entertain, then that would be a great space for them because Sims could mingle in there and not get stuck. So I wanted to be sure to add a closet for the teen room too. I wanted to add one for the child's room as well, but there's just no way to sneak it in because the closets, they're a brand new object in this game, and I wanted to be sure to incorporate them into this build. So I tried to place them in as many bedrooms as I could. I'm sorry I couldn't place them in every single bedroom, but the closets are so fun to play with, and you need to have them in your game for sure. I think this is when I'm finally redoing the dining room. That fireplace was just too big. It was too close to the dining chairs and the rug, and it was really bothering me. So I went with a more sleek and modern fireplace that was added with Get Together, and I figured that was okay, that we had a few modern pieces incorporated with more traditional furniture. I figured it would be all right. I finally get rid of that table because I was just frustrated a whole bunch, and I was cycling through carpets a whole bunch as well. I don't know why. This dining room was just always bugging me for some reason until I finally went with a more beige and gold color scheme, and then I started to like it a lot more. And I loved these chairs with this color, but I didn't like the table. So these are the two individual new tables that I put very close together and made it seem like a much bigger, elongated table, and I was much happier with that. Now see right here, this candle, this is where I changed the temperature of it slightly so it's not so dramatic, and it looks more like the gradient from neutral white to warm was a little bit better because I think it was like very warm initially, and it just it didn't look very appealing in my opinion. But I'm much happier with the way this dining room came out after I did that. I felt the music room was lacking a lot. I just wasn't liking it. So again, kind of did the similar thing with the dining room where I just went with a more beige and gold color scheme, and I felt that looked a lot better. Even though red is my favorite color, I just felt it looked way too intense and it didn't really suit this house, I think. I feel like if I ever did a Spanish build, like this room would be perfect in that. But I wanted something a little bit more subtle, and I went with these more beige and cream colors, and I think that it ended up looking a little bit better that way, and it kind of flowed with the rest of the house a lot more because it stood out way too much for my liking. And then this is where the bedroom gets a pretty big overhaul too, and I wanted a room that wasn't brown. I was using brown way too much, so I was like, okay, screw it. The darker textures I wasn't liking too much, so I'm going to go white. I'm just going to put white wood paneling, white bed, white and gold, and I think that'll look much better. So I was happy with the way the master bedroom came out after all. And there's also the closet right there that I moved to the extruded wall. But now I'm just going to show a bunch of video clips of the rest of the house. I hope that you guys enjoyed this first speed build, and I hope that you look forward to more. If you have any recommendations for certain houses that I should build in the future, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time.